Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the T26E4 SuperPershing. It's a Tier 8 American Premium Medium tank, and this one's located on the south spawn of Mountain Pass under the command of T26E4 Well, there's quite a bit I can tell you about this tank, and it's got quite a bit of history behind it. There was only one tank that was actually made, the SuperPershing, which actually had this configuration with the extra armour. In fact, that extra armour was, on the hull it was boilerplate, and on the turret, the extra bit on the mantlet, that's to protect it. That was taken off a Panther to protect it from the Tiger II shells, because although this tank could withstand shots from the Panther and from the Tiger I and take both of those out, it couldn't easily take out the Tiger II. So what they did is they fitted the T15E1 gun, which is a 90mm gun with 73 calibers, a very long gun, and that's why it requires those springs on the top to hold the gun up. And well, it's got a very high shell velocity, this gun, which means that it could take out the Tiger IIs. Okay, T26E4 has taken it right up on top of the hill because I don't think he trusts his teammates to stop the enemy. He's right, and the enemy SuperPershing was the first to come around the corner, but he didn't get a pen. He's using standard ammo at the moment. Now, according to the book, at the moment it's 240 Alpha, 202mm pen with the standard rounds. You can see the muzzle velocity there, 975 meters per second. And with the premium rounds, which is showing there, same 240 Alpha, but this time round 258mm of pen. Yeah, he's watching out for the enemy to come rushing around that corner. In fact, the tank that does come around the corner is a Lynx. He probably felt that he was safe because he had the ability to sprint round. He managed to get into a corner, but he did lose some hit points, and now he's a one-shot for anyone who can take him. And, oh, we just took a round from a Renegade, so he's had to pull back. Not sure where that round... Oh, it went in through the top, near the cupola actually. Yeah, he was having a quick look there to see exactly where it went. Okay, up to the corner, and there's a Progetto. Puts a round into him, gets a high roll. That Renegade appears to be aiming, but I don't think he saw where we were. And he gets around into him as well. Another high roll for 260. Attack 262. Fires a blind shot at the Renegade that time. More than likely got it. He's loading the APCR. There's no point trying mucking around with these tanks. You might as well get the benefit. That one's a low roll for 222. Easily goes through the upper plate of the Renegade. That's a low roll as well. He's bouncing rounds from the Progetto and from the Renegade here. I think he probably hit the front plates, those cheeks and the front plate on the mantlet. Those are actually cut from the upper plate armour of a Panther tank, and they actually cut holes for the gun and also for the machine gun and the viewport. And they added an extra 7 tons to the vehicle to put all that extra armour on, which really screwed up the suspension of this vehicle, made it incredibly heavy. In fact, they had to put 2 tons of extra armour on, or extra weight on the counterbalance at the back, and he just got hit by a splash from an FE207. Yeah, there had to be extra weight on the back of the turret to counter the weight that they put it on the front. And in fact, actually, those cheeks that you see on the front of the turret were actually counterbalanced, not put there to deflect any shells that went at the cheeks of the vehicle. According to Belton Cooper, that's why he put them on. Of course, the tank historian Honeycutt thought that they were there to protect the sides of the turret, but no. Belton Cooper was the guy in charge of this tank, and he said they were there to counterbalance. Well, the Renegade managed to get another round into us. It's 105, but he's now out the game. Unfortunately, it's not looking good for T26E4's team, because they're down 2 tanks on the enemy at the moment. And he's kind of fighting alone up here at the moment, although he does have some teammates a short distance away. So what more can I tell you? Well, during the Second World War, they shipped 20 Pershings to Europe, and one of them was this one, the Super Pershing, which is the T26E4. The other Pershings did take part in several actions, including a famous one in Cologne, where a Pershing managed to take out a Panther tank who'd just taken out 2 Shermans. In fact, there's a film of that, and you see one of the Sherman crew bailing out of the tank, missing his leg after receiving a shell from that Panther. The Pershing took a different approach. He was actually in another street just a little way off, and he was called around by the troops to deal with the Panther, came at him from a different direction. The Panther suddenly realised that he was looking in the wrong way, turned his turret round to face the Super Pershing, who fired on the move. That shot went straight through the Panther, and then he fired another couple of shots whilst he was stationary, aim shots, which also went through the sides of the Panther. So first shot went straight through the underneath the gun of the Panther, penetrated into the tank, killed some of the crew, and the second 2 shots went straight through the sides of the vehicle and straight out the other side as well. They were that powerful. RNG as Toxis puts a nice high roll into the SU-130PM. Can he get the kill shots? Should be. Yep, he gets it. Well, so far he's got 2 kills, but he's now way down, still 2 down on the enemy. Now, as I mentioned, the gun is 73 calibers long, and it was so heavy, this vehicle, they actually had to have springs to hold the gun up. So it really couldn't elevate as much as it really could in the game. They've given it 20 degrees of elevation, but in actual fact it could only do 18 because it was so heavy. In fact, on the whole, although the Pershing tank itself wasn't a failure, and he's just clobbered his third kill with the Wizzy 111-1FT, and he's now putting holes into the TNH-105-1000. The Pershing, oh, that hurt. Amarat has fixed that straight away. Lower plate should go through. It does, but he's now 1 shot. He tries to go for a ram kill, but he was just too close. Get it on the next round. Yes, he got him. Now deal with the Charioteer, because he's going to be the next problem. Yep, easily goes through. Another high roll, 268. He's pulled back, but the Arty hits him, and this time round does get a good hit for 149. He's made the Charioteer a 1-shot. Trying to work out where he is. He fires it in and kills the Charioteer with that round. So he's now got 4 kills. In fact, he's now all alone against 3 enemy. He's got 20% of the enemy hit pool, but he might not be alive to collect his award unless he can survive against 3. An Astron Rex, a Lancer C, and that Arty, the FE207. He's down to just 22 hit points. 1 Arty round will be enough to finish him off. Here comes the Astron. He's a 1-shot. He's out the game. So that's 1. Now, where are the other 2? There's the Lancer. He's a 1-shot. Come on, clobber the Lancer now. Go for it. Go for it. Quickly whilst you can. No, the Lancer backs away, and unfortunately this now gives the FE207 a chance to splash him and win the battle. There's the roar. There's the Arty round. He missed on this occasion, but he just got some stun. This is what RNG Toxis has got to watch out for. If he can clobber that Lancer C, then he can confuse the FE207 and find him and then kill him. But he's still down to just 22 hit points. The Lancer C cannot cap. He's got 2 lower hit points. 1 shell will be enough to finish him off. But RNG Toxis has got to watch out for that FE207 again, winning the battle with 1 Arty round. Listen for the roar whenever the Arty fires. He needs to be in cover. He hasn't got sound warning, so he can't tell when the Arty's fired unless he hears a roar. He's holding on to this rock for the moment. I reckon the FE207 must be loaded by now. He's just holding his fire, waiting for a clear target to come into sight. And in the meanwhile, the Lanson has gone into hiding. He can't afford to go charging down the hill now, because that Lanson could be sitting in ambush waiting. And it's a bit of a dangerous position being out here as well, because if the Lanson does see him, then the Arty's going to see him as well, and that means an Arty round will be inbound. This has got very, very interesting. This is a pref matchmaking tank, by the way, so you'll never see tier 10. You'll only ever see tier 9 in this tank, which makes it quite a bit of fun, but it is still a medium tank with extra armor on the front, and it does have very visible weak spots. The holes for the machine guns are there. They're obvious spots to put the shells, or just underneath the plates on the cheeks. They'll get through the turret, and as you saw, the Renegade managed to put a round into the cupola, which again does stick out a bit. In fact, it's got two cupolas. One is just behind the springs, which actually hold the gun up. As I say, there was only one SuperPershing in Europe, and it did actually go on to see action. I'll mention that in the second video and tell you a story about that. And because of the failure of the SuperPershing, they actually only built 25 of them. They built 2,202 M26 Pershings, because it was a better tank and it was supposed to be the replacement for the Sherman. But I'm afraid only 25 SuperPershings, because they thought it was a bit of a failure. It did have a very good gun, which was basically the same as a Tiger II's gun in many ways. The ability to punch through a lot of armor, and possibly something that might have been able to deal with the IS-2s in Korea. But, and certainly it would easily deal with the T3485s that were in Korea. Oh, he was seen! Now get behind the rock quick. I think that Lanson's in the bushes just opposite, not down below. He must have moved, and the RT takes the game. So yeah, I was fearing that would happen. Yes, RNG's Toxis is very frustrated. Well, here's the end of battle stats, and that was an ace tanker game for RNG's Toxis in the T26E4 SuperPershing. He got a duelist for taking down 2 tanks who damaged him. He got a fire for effect for doing more damage than the hit points to his own vehicle. He got a high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game, and he did get a top gun in the end after killing all of those enemies that were coming up towards him. In fact, he got 6 in total. If he'd taken out the last 2, the FV207 and the Lanson, then he would have got a Radley Walters, and I think the Lanson was the most likely that he was going to kill. The FV207 might have been a problem, because although he's an Arty and he's slow, the fact of the matter is he could have sat in ambush and waited for RNG's Toxis to turn up and then hit him with one splash round, and that would have been the end of the game, as it was in fact at the end, where he did get a splash, or in fact it looked to be a direct hit actually, by the FV207 to win the game. So let's have a look at team score and see exactly where he was. Well, he did get the highest damage in the game with 4,990 hit points. The second highest damage went to the Lanson C, who had 4,242, followed by the Object 7032 on his own team with 3,342. When it came to kills, he had the highest number of those. 6 kills went to RNG's Toxis, 3 kills went to the Charioteer on his own team, and also to the Axtron Rex, the TNH 105 1000 on the enemy team. When it came to base XP, it's the Lanson C who came out on top in this one, 1,321, mostly because he got that high damage. And the second highest went to the TNH 105 1000 with 1,049. Third highest XP went to RNG's Toxis with 969, which just goes to show how well he performed during that battle. He fired 33 rounds in that game, 25 direct hits, 23 penetrations, damage of 4,990 hit points, of which 241 were at more than 300 meters. Those were the shots he took from the top of the hill all the way down to the pass right at the bottom on the ice road. 241, yep, okay. 15 hits received from the enemy, only 4 of which actually penetrated, 9 non-penetrations, because that shows that the armour is pretty good on this tank, especially considering the armour on the mantlets actually does prevent the enemy getting pens, and the boilerplate armour on the front of the vehicle does deflect rounds. He also got splashed 4 times, and unfortunately 2 of those splashes were pretty bad. The one that actually did hit from the FV207, and the other one, the last one, which actually took him out of the game. 2,520 hit points of damage blocked by armour. He damaged 8 of the enemy, killed 6 of them, did 57 hit points of damage assistance. He earned 81,464 credits from the game, 7,560 for the Achievements Award. That's because he got a Battle Hero medal in a losing or drawn game. 133,536 credits altogether. And after repair, ammunition, resupply and consumables, and yes, he did have to fire plenty of premium ammo, but it was absolutely necessary because he was up against some serious opposition, and most of it he was doing it all himself, all alone. 7,026 credits loss out of that game. Yeah, it's not a big loss, it's a small one considering the amount of ammo he played. That's understandable. 969 XP, 533 to the Achievements Award, 225 because this is a premium vehicle, 2,478 experience points altogether. So not a bad game there by RNG as Toxis. Sad ending, and I can tell why he was frustrated, especially when he was going in and out at the end. I mean, really, he was doing so well. If only he charged down the hill when he had very low hit points towards the end of the moment when he last saw the Lanson. I think if he chased after the Lanson, in with his 105mm gun, would have been at the disadvantage. So long as he kept his armour to the front of that guy, I think he probably would have bounced his round and RNG's Toxis would have taken the kill, but instead he decided to stay up on top of the hill to use his height advantage to try and lure that Lanson C to come up the hill, and unfortunately it didn't work out too well because the FV207 could then splash him. So first battle, it's a loss, but it's an honourable loss. Ace tanker, high caliber, top gun. Let's have a look at the second battle. The second battle in this video is on the north spawn of Tundra, and this time round the commander is pitro123. Game on. Well, I was going to say that there's another story about this tank actually seeing action. It never actually faced any Tiger 2s, and that's the reason why they put the armour on top of the vehicle, because they thought that the Tiger 2 could easily penetrate through this vehicle, no problem whatsoever. But in actual fact, it never came across the Tiger 2. In fact, they were quite some distance away. It did come into action though. On the first occasion, they fired at a target and destroyed an enemy vehicle, which they believe, or it's suggested the vehicle was a Yak Panther. Although it's not been confirmed, some other people think it was just a Panzer IV. And on the second occasion, there was also a dispute over what actually happened, because some people claim that they actually took on a Tiger 2. In actual fact, it wasn't, because as I said, they were 70 miles away, the nearest Tiger 2s. And he's come up against another one of his own kind, and he punches around straight through the front with the APCR. No, it was suggested that the other vehicle was probably another Panzer IV, another Panzer IV, and it just got confused for a Tiger 2. It could have been a Panther, as far as they know, but they certainly destroyed it with one round straight through the upper plate of the vehicle. So potentially the SuperPershing killed one Yak Panther and possibly one Panther or one Panzer IV or two Panzer IVs, depending on which way you look at it. Anyway, the only T26E4 with the armour on, this one, actually ended up in a scrapyard in Kassel in Germany. It was kept in Europe after the war just in case the Soviets decided to pay a visit, and it was kept in readiness. And as I said, although they actually manufactured 25 SuperPershings for use just in case, all of them except the one that was over in Germany, this one, ended up becoming range targets, and he's just killed a T28 prototype. Yep, sad to think that a tank which had taken so long to actually develop and was tested in the field ended up just becoming a range target for the testing of the new high velocity armor piercing shells and the heat rounds that the US Army were producing. Now, when they actually fitted the T15E2 gun, this one's got the T15E1, they didn't need all those springs on top of the roof of the turret. And in fact, actually, what they did is they managed to get a hydraulic system in there as well to elevate the guns. One of the big problems with this particular tank was that the thing was so heavy because of all that extra armour that they couldn't elevate the gun very easily. It took a man, they couldn't use a manual, an automatic elevation system. They had to, a man had to sit there and crank a wheel to force the gun up, to elevate the gun. And as I said in the previous video, they could only get 18 degrees of elevation, which meant if the target was above you, you're going to have a hell of a job trying to get shots on them. Well, there are 4 tanks up on the enemy at the moment, so it's looking pretty good for Pitro, and he's had a steady damage rate. He's showing just under 2k of damage, but in actual fact, he does have a few blind shots on that T28 prototype, so he's probably at about 2.5k damage already. Now, the one good thing about this tank is it does have good pen on the enemy. You can see that just punches through. He's using the premium ammo though. Yep, no problem penetrating the enemy tanks. And the front arc of the tank, oh nice, it's got another kill. The front arc is fairly well covered except for just underneath the cheeks. You've got to pray that the enemy doesn't know where to aim. Most people who get confronted by SuperPershing aim for the wrong spots, and that's why they fail to get any damage. You can penetrate the sides and the rear. There's fairly weak armour there, but at the front it's very strong. And you see there, it's just bounced around from an Su-130PM. Even with his 13cm shell, he's no match. And there you go, he's out of the game. Pitro's dealt with him. And now he's got to deal with that Scorpion G, who's somewhere around here. Where are you? Come out, wherever you are. Well, I don't think he's actually around here. Or is he? Yes, he is! There's only 2 enemies left according to this. Not according to the minimap. This says 3, but he ram kills the Scorpion G and takes him out of the game. He's only lost a few hit points in damage, and that's the end of the battle. Look at all the bounces off the front. Here's the end of battle stats, and that was the first class tanker for pitro123 in the T26E4 SuperPershing, but it happened to be his 3rd Mark of Excellence game as well. Very well done. He didn't score as highly as RNG's Toxis in terms of damage and all the extra. He didn't get 6 kills, but he did manage to get a high caliber, a fighter badge for getting at least 4 kills. He got 4 exactly, a duelist and a 5 for effect. And yes, he did get the high caliber in the game. His win rate from that battle, 8,386 super unicum and quite a bit more. And the way he just went through the enemy, he had to get down that hill fast, because so he went over the edge, mainly because he was after as much damage as he could on the enemy to get that 3rd Mark of Excellence. Let's have a look at team score. Well, there it is, right at the top of the table with 4,031 hit points. Again, not as much as we had in the previous battle with RNG's Toxis. If you remember, in that battle, he managed to get 4,900 hit points of damage. But it's still a very good score anyway, 4,031. The next highest scorer was the VK101P on the enemy on his own team, 2,620, and then it was the IS-3 on the enemy team with 1,896. He did get the highest number of kills, 4, but he actually shared that with the VK101P. And when it came to base XP, he's got the top on that one. So he's got the top in all 3 columns. 1,238 base experience points. 1,135 went to the VK101P. And third place was way down with 793. So you can see these two guys were way above the others in performance. And congratulations should go to pitro123 on getting his 3rd mark. 19 shots fired, 18 direct hits on the enemy, 17 penetrations, some of those blind shots which actually did hit the mark, 4,031 hit points of damage, of which 962 were done at more than 300 meters. Yeah, he was leaning over the edge to get as many shots as he could at enemy tanks that were in sight, as well as taking out that T28 with blind shots. 3 hits received from the enemy, 3 non-penetrations. Just goes to show the armor is so strong. He blocked shots that came from the Su-130PM and also from the other tank he took out, the CS-52 Liss. He took that guy on face to face, but he just couldn't penetrate. So just again shows how tough the tank is when it comes to blocking damage. He also did take 1 hit by way of splash damage as well, 1,070 hit points of damage blocked by armor, 7 enemy vehicles damaged, 4 killed, 216 hit points of damage assistance. In this game he earned 115,026 credits, 57,513 from personal reserves, a total of 172,539. After repair, ammunition, resupply and consumables, and minimal repair because he did hardly any damage at all. In fact, actually I think he did. The only damage he really suffered was when he ram killed that Scorpion towards the end. And yes, even though he used some premium ammo, he still came out ahead with 89,241 credits. At least I think he only used a couple of premiums. I will check that later on. 25 bonds for the Achievements Award. 1,857 XP, 186 for this being a premium vehicle, took away 2,043 experience points altogether. So 2 great games in the T26E4 SuperPershing. I think Wargaming does put it, I know it's on sale permanently in the shop, but occasionally they do put it out as a rental tank as well. It's an interesting tank because so long as you keep your front to the enemy, then it can be very frustrating for the enemy to try and get a shell into your weak spots. They're constantly either trying to aim for the turret roof or for just underneath the cheeks, and they forget that there's holes in the upper plate where you can actually fire through, and probably because they don't think anybody's going to be stupid enough to aim for the upper plate, simply because that extra armor does make the shells bounce quite easily. So yeah, what actually happened to the last T26E4? Well, the one that we saw in this battle, the SuperPershing, that one ended up here. As we can see, this is the one that actually existed. This is before they put the cheek armor on. You can see it's got the frontal armor on the front of the mantlet, and it's already got the boilerplate stuck on the front of the vehicle. They hadn't put the wings on at this point, but the reason they put the wings on, as Belton Cooper said, was actually to cause a counterbalance, so they could actually, so the turret wouldn't be overweighted at the front. And it wasn't actually supposed to be there as armor, but that's exactly what it did anyway. But yeah, sadly, this ended up being scrapped and thrown away. And there's now only one T26E4 SuperPershing in existence, without, of course, the boilerplate armor. And that's actually at the 1st Tank Division in Illinois. They've, at their headquarters, it's sitting outside in the rain, unfortunately, but it's still looked after well. So it's in fairly good condition. One hopes that they will actually get it sent to Fort Benning, and it will join the other collection of tanks that they've got there, so that when people go to Fort Benning, they'll be able to go through the museum and see this rather unusual tank, the SuperPershing, and what it was actually designed to do, to take on the Tiger IIs face to face and blast them with a round, a 90mm round, equivalent to the rounds that the Tiger IIs were firing and literally hole them through their upper plates and their lower plates and just about anywhere. But sadly, because it was so heavy on the turret, it just was a bit of a failure. And it's a good job that they rejected it and only built 25. They were going to build 1,000. They rejected it. They only built 25. And they used the ideas that they had with this tank to build the M47. And that was the pattern that was used in Korea. So, yep, they actually deciding not to build the SuperPershing actually did have a benefit, because it forced the army to actually accept and build the pattern tank, which was a much better tank in every way. So I hope you enjoyed both those battles. Quite a lot of stories, in fact, involving the Pershings, SuperPershings, mostly good in terms of the fact they did actually get some damage on the enemy during the war, during the latter stages of the war. They weren't too happy about originally putting them into action because they felt that they might actually come a cropper. But in actual fact, during the parade in Berlin, a number of SuperPershings, or not SuperPershings, but Pershings, were actually sent. And of course, that's when they first met the IS-3. And at that point, I think the US Army felt a bit crestfallen, because they suddenly realised that's the tank we've got to take on with these Pershings. And I think that's probably why they hastened the development of tanks like the T-32, and then the obviously after that the M47, the pattern. Anyway, a bit of history, 2 great games. Thanks to pitro123 and RNG's Toxis. If you enjoyed those replays, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below because it feeds the algorithm. And please do let people know that our channel exists and that we've got a second channel called The General, where you can watch great replays without me prattling on in the background. Just great games with lots of kills and some really amazing feats by extraordinary players. Thanks for watching.